Have you looked at popular AMV editors and think, man, how can I make anything as good as that? These people became popular because they have an editing style that makes them stand out. A lot of popular edits use plugins, but in my opinion, the free stuff that already comes with After Effects is underappreciated. Today, I'll show you how a free effect called Pixel Motion Blur can help you make edits that stand out. We'll first off by making a basic Pixel Motion Blur transition, which you can edit to make cool things like this. To make a basic Pixel Motion Blur transition, you want to pick two clips and cut them up to the length you want. For these two clips, I recommend you picking two clips that have some sort of action happening and choose from where you want your transition to start. Think about how these two actions, they might blend together. What do you think which of these can blend together? That's how I pick my transitions, but in reality, you can choose any clip you want. So once you have your clips chosen, you want to select your clips and you want to pre-compose them. I'll name my comp so I can edit this transition later, and make sure you have to move all attributes into the new composition. After that, go to your effects and presets panel. Type in Pixel Motion Blur, and then you apply it. Notice how there is blur that's generated. You want to scroll through and look until the first clip ends and the second clip starts. So it's around here. I'm gonna go to a frame where you can see that there's a long Pixel Motion Blur. For the settings for this Pixel Motion Blur, I don't really edit them. I just keep them the way it is for the sake of not slowing down my computer. But you can experiment with some of these settings. If I toggle on and off Pixel Motion Blur, you can see that there is blur that's added. If I play back this clip, you can see that the Pixel Motion Blur is not really noticeable. If you want a more noticeable Pixel Motion Blur, put your playhead on the clip that has the Pixel Motion Blur applied. After that, you want to pre-compose this base comp once again. Just make sure I have this setting selected, and you press OK, you apply Pixel Motion Blur again. Now, as you can see, the Pixel Motion Blur is way stronger, way more stronger than before. So over here, I'm still not happy with the amount of motion blur. I want more motion blur. I place my playhead on the frame where there's motion blur. I pre-compose it again. Make sure I have this setting selected. Apply Pixel Motion Blur again. Then repeat this process. Pre-compose and add the Pixel Motion Blur until you get the amount of Pixel Motion Blur that makes you happy. Over here, I basically add Pixel Motion Blur 4 times to the footage. I'm pretty happy with this amount of motion blur. I'm just going to play it back. So this is the amount of Pixel Motion Blur that I'm pretty happy with. Now notice how throughout this composition, there's Pixel Motion Blur that's added randomly throughout the first clip and throughout the second clip, like especially here. This is the Pixel Motion Blur that's generated. If I play it back, hey, the Pixel Motion Blur is not noticeable throughout a clip. But you can keep it. If it makes your clip look good, if you like how it looks, you can certainly keep it. Now, if you want to supposedly remove, you don't want the Pixel Motion Blur here. You don't want the Pixel Motion Blur here. The only place you want the Pixel Motion Blur is in the actual transition itself. You can't exactly remove the blur itself, but you can put footage over it. So let's say that my transition, I want this part only. I want blur to be only on this part. I'm gonna place my playhead to where the transition is just about to begin, and then I go to my project panel. You don't click. I'm gonna go to the composition where my original footage is. It's over here in the base comp. It's not in these compositions. So I named it base comp, so it's easier for me to see where original footage resides. Now, if you kept your playhead in the same spot, you can duplicate the clip with Control D, Control Shift D to cut the clip. And I just want this part. I press Control C, I go back to my tutorial, I press Control V, and if you put your playhead in the same spot, your pasted clip should be automatically pasted where you want. And it should go this should go on top of the pixel motion blur that you don't want. Now, I'm gonna go to where my second clip comes in here, it comes in here. This is where I want to start putting the footage over this part of the clip. I don't want the pixel motion blur over here. I'll put my playhead where I want my second clip to be pasted. I'll go back to my base comp. I go back to where my footage originally is. Duplicate cut. I just want this portion, so I press Control Z and then press Control V. Now you successfully quote unquote removed the pixel motion blur by putting footage where it's pretty much the same footage, but except the pixel motion blur only exists within here. Now let's say you want to change where your transition actually happens. You don't want it to happen at this part of the clip. You go back to your base comp and you move where this is. You move where this intersection is. Let's say I want my transition to start here. I can basically cut my clip and go over here. I go back to my tutorial, and now for these two layers, you want to hide them so you can see the original footage below. Also, since we changed the length of our actual clips in total, we're going to need to change the composition length of this comp 3. Well, I'm gonna wait until this renders out so we can see what this looks like. So this is what our clips look like with the change in where the transition actually happened. You notice here, the pixel motion blur generates random motion blur during the entire clip. So if you want to keep this, it looks cool. You know what I'm saying? It looks cool. It's like a cool fade out transition. But I'm not going to keep it for this tutorial. So I'm gonna go to where I want to end. And I go back to my comp 3 and I basically change my transition. I'm just trying to match where my playhead is. So where my playhead is, I can cut my composition like so, and my composition will be cut to where the playhead is. See that? I go back to my tutorial, and it's right here, it's already cut. Now, again, if you don't want the pixel motion blur here, you don't want the pixel motion blur here, you want to put footage on top of it so it hides it. You know the footage is the same. You have to put it in the same spot so it nicely places itself over it. We're just gonna go over to where our transition starts. It starts somewhere here, so I can put my footage, I can cut my footage so it's on the left side of the playhead. So I have, throughout this part of the clip, I have no pixel motion blur. Now to get the second clip, let's say you don't want pixel motion blur here. You go to where you want to end your transition. I want to end my transition, and then I want to start my second clip. You can try to fiddle around with the second clip, fiddle around and try to match the second clip. See, I can't really match my second clip. You're trying to overlay the image over it, so I'm just going to delete it and just do the same process of placing my playhead where I want the rest of my second footage to start. I'll go to my base comp, duplicate, cut, I just want the right side, this part. I press Control C, backspace, tutorial, press Control V. If I go back a frame, you can see, oh, maybe it blends well. You can always cut this clip so it'll match the composition. Now if you play it back, see, this is what the transition looks like. Again, you don't have to add these clips overlay on your video. And then a final thing, if the pixel motion blur taxes your computer, you could personally for me, I always edit in core resolution. The pixel motion blur, it taxes your computer a lot. And see how long it takes it to render. I don't mess with editing in full resolution. It takes too damn long. So a tip I have, if you want your computer to work faster, you want smoother playback, you want to clip your play area and then export just that play area. What we're going to do is we're going to export this portion of the clip. We're going to do this because our computer will be able to render this part of the transition way faster. It will render out faster, and your computer will not have to render out the actual pixel motion blur. It just renders out the video. The video has the pixel motion blur transition embedded. Once you have your pixel motion blur clip outputted, you want to paste it. You want to bring your clip into your project panel, and then you want to put it in your timeline. Now, you want to match it up, drag this so it matches up with the play area that we previously made. Big tip on making this transition. Make sure you have everything set in stone. Make sure that this is exactly where you want to transition. If you want to change this transition later on and still have your computer have that smooth playback, you're going to have to re-export the transition again if you want your computer to have that smooth playback. Now let's see if we can play this in full resolution. This is a test. It plays in full resolution fine. Reason being is your computer does not have to work on rendering this. It just renders a video in the video. So that's your pixel motion blur transition. By the way, if you like the pixel motion blurs generated throughout your clip and you still want that smooth playback, you can export this entire composition. Just make sure you have your work area, play area set to the length of your composition, and you can just export that clip. So once your clip is exported, go back to your main composition, drag and drop your export clip into your timeline, and put it into your timeline. Now I'm going to see if I can play my whole transition in full resolution. Now notice how there's some artifacting on this blur. I don't want this over here, so I'm going to make all the footage from the right side of this play and just the raw footage. I'll repeat the very similar process that I did for the transition, for the smaller export transition that I showed a couple minutes ago. I'm just going to go to my base comp, make sure my playhead is at the spot where I want the raw footage to start. Control D, duplicate. I only want the right side of this playhead, so I'll press Control C, delete, and then go to my tutorial. Making sure that my playhead is in the same spot, I press Control V, and now I can just get this, clip it here, and we remove the artifact. So now this is our transition. To end this video, I want to show you 10 transition ideas you can make with Pixel Motion Blur. Just comment down below the transition number you want me to make a tutorial on. I want you to take inspiration from these transition ideas, and I also encourage you to experiment and play around, mixing and matching the Pixel Motion Blur transition with other effects that I haven't shown here, and that's what's going to make your edits stand out.